Okay. All right, I should be good now.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, the first thing there, right? General overview of Wrecking Ball. How do you feel Wrecking Ball plays personally? Do you think it's different between playing in a team and scrims, and how have you been playing him, or what have you found most beneficial? I guess.
So I've been doing a mix. I've been doing like occasional wrecking ball in just I guess like Smurf like diamond games, or like high plat games. Usually when I'm just with friends, like having fun. So when I do that in ladder, it's more just like to practice like basic mechanics and like movement around the map. Since at times that can be pretty challenging on him specifically. Being able to utilize grapple to get to the spots I want to get to and things like that. And there's a lot of maps in the game at the moment, so there are a bunch of weird things to adjust to. So that's one way that I practice him, if you want to call that practice. And then the other way is in at least one map per scrim. Not consistently, but usually in at least one map per scrim, I'll just play him for an entire map. And I'll do my best to play him like in a bit more of like a coordinated fashion, in a way where I am like being very vocal about when I'm engaging and what I'm engaging on whenever I can give that information and try to have my teammates follow up on that. Um, so yeah, I'd say those are like the two main ways that I've sort of practiced him, but it hasn't been consistent practice at all. Um, and by far, he's still the tank that I have the least time on compared to every other tank in the game, even the off tanks. So
Okay. Yeah, no, that's so. Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. I think the biggest thing with Wrecking Ball, in my opinion, he's the most mechanically intensive tank in the game, at least to me, because there's so much random stuff you can do on him.
yeah.
Um, but I would say his general. Yeah, I kind of like what you said. I feel like a lot of people like playing him in comp. A lot of people then, for some reason, don't like bringing him over into team play, just because it's a very different level of focus. People different level of comfortability for most individuals. But I think he still is very beneficial. I think his biggest thing is being a disruptor, right? Especially as the game changes here to a 5v5 in Overwatch 2. I think honestly, his if they didn't change anything about all the other characters, he would be the strongest one, kind of like back in the day when he was kind of the one comp with the triple DPS and whatnot with
Oh
him.
yeah, with the 4 DPS and the
Yeah,
one and the Mercy, I think for the support.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think if they didn't change anything, obviously it seems like some other tanks are more preferable for individuals, but I think he just as a baseline has already got a good reason to be practiced and played. But yeah, playing him like a disruptor is probably his biggest thing. I think a lot of people just don't people who are tank players don't really understand is actually a lot of value without even realizing it. Like I've noticed some of the best wrecking ball players are not most of the best main tank players or tank players in general because to understand how he plays, he doesn't really play like most of the other tanks in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you play him like a disruptor. Like I honestly think the closest character to Wrecking Ball is more so Doomfist than any, and obviously Doomfist becoming a tank in Overwatch too. Um, but but in general, back in the day when I used to explain how to play Wrecking Ball, people would be very thrown off by that because it'd be like, oh well, I think he plays a little bit like Monkey, a little bit like that. I was like, no, just don't even think of him in the same category as your other tanks because he's way better at most 1v1 scenarios than those ones, way worse at certain 1v1s than those ones, and all that sort of stuff there.
And I
So,
think in terms of that, I think, and it'll be obvious when we look at the replay code that I sent, but there are moments where I'm able to kind of figure out that disruptor play style, and I'm able to like do that effectively for like an isolated fight. But I feel like doing it more consistently throughout like an entire round is usually where it gets a little bit hard because it starts to feel like some additional like creativity is necessary in terms of like passing or where you take your engagement from, or getting your timing right to actually disrupt at an ideal time and not disrupt like too late when everything's already kind of done for your team in that fight.
mhm.
So yeah, I think getting a better sense of like how to make or how to more consistently play that play style on him, I think that will be a thing that kind of helps. So I guess that's like the biggest like major goal for today, like for me, just to be able to have some guidance on like how to kind of rewire my brain, so that I don't just have moments where Tracer lived. Wow, so I don't have moments where I'm just like playing Wrecking Ball for one fight, and then the next fight I'm playing him like Winston for no reason, and essentially doing nothing or just dying.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's the point. It's still on the map. It's crazy. I thought the ledge was
She
on.
is.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah, but yeah, I would say, yep. I think what you're saying is probably most of people's biggest problems on Wrecking Bar. They will, if they, even if I help someone out with like a fight or like a couple of situations, what like an optimal scenario, they don't really know how to translate that all the time. And then as soon as you don't translate it like that, people a lot, right? Because almost everyone who plays Wrecking Ball who doesn't understand him is a tank player, so they just default to what they know in other ones. I think probably not beneficial in that case for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, they're like, oh, if I play him kind of like Winston, I can get things done. It's like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of using things where like you use the analogies of using other characters when it really isn't the same. Like, oh, well, it's a mobile tank, so it's like Winston do. And it's like, no, not really. Or like, oh, he has these guns. It's like, I don't know, whatever character. But yeah, I think the biggest things we can talk about are some of those things. Those are things I think a lot of people struggle with. I think one of the biggest things off the bat is being a disruptor. You really don't want to take the brunt of the engagement in the majority of scenarios. Obviously, it depends. The higher level the scrims get, honestly, a lot of time Ball will want to bait himself. The higher and higher your scrims are for some teams, they like really baiting Ball. But generally, my basic thing that I like to tell people to start off with is come from an angle people don't expect as much. So don't just run it straight down in front of them because you're obviously going to eat damage for no good reason. Anytime you can, don't honestly, even coming from behind them a lot of the time is something that they'll predict. Coming from a side or being above them and being able to set up like a free play, I think, is one of the most beneficial things that a lot of people, they still don't do enough pre-planning with Ball, where I think Ball is one of the most beneficial characters to plan how you're going to take an engage before it happens. Like, right, because if you don't know what you're gonna do and you waste all that time, then you're gonna sit there and the fight's gonna start, especially in a team setting. Everyone else on your team's gonna get ready in probably 5 to 6 seconds because everyone else is playing like Tracer and blah blah blah, all these fast characters. So they're gonna get there probably a couple seconds after you, but you really have to have the plan as you show up to the fight. Like the bots down here were the enemy team, like you would instantly want to be rotating up to here if you want to make that play, rather than like just rolling here, sitting here, waiting for your Tracer. It's just not as beneficial. I think right off the bat there. So I mean, we'll look at that for sure. We'll also look at your Ilios game, but we're right there, right? I think the biggest thing about Ball coming from any angle that they won't expect you from. I honestly think starting the fight with Slam most of the time, if you don't have to start with your roll, that's really nice because you can just get the free Slam if the fight looks really good whenever you hit it. If everyone looks pretty low, you can just start shooting and get involved, right? Like you just E and shoot, and you just be a normal tank.
Yeah.
But then if things are really ugly, let's say you get a bunch of CC thrown at you, a lot of people start focusing you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that means the rest of your team is able to do a lot of work. But if not, right, it's very easy then if you slammed to always just roll away, then still have some aggro on you and then still be able to help, right?
Yeah.
If you think about, I'm sure you played Ball quite a bit, so you probably feel what his feeling for his effective range. That's something I'm not a big numbers guy in that sense, where just feeling where he starts to feel useless, right? Definitely will not feel as good shooting like that.
Yeah.
Much as it would like maybe a couple meters up more. So knowing his effective range is really beneficial to still be able to get that value because he honestly is one of the most interesting characters. Not a lot of DPS players are really good at him because they're like his AC is a lot of his aim and his damage and then his mobility. So
yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of moments where I don't take advantage of the fact that I can do pretty decent damage when I am in his effective range. I think there are moments where I'm so focused on trying to use like cooldowns versus just being able to kind of play things more simply and more logically, and just actually look to get the damage in with my guns while I have the like window, and then just get out with my grapple if I have it, like what you just explained. So yeah, I think, yeah. In general, when you look at the Wrecking Ball gameplay, it may look like a 1.9k player. So it'll be funny at least. But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of very fundamental things on him that are difficult because, like you said earlier, I think like other players, I start to treat him like other tanks in the game and not like his own unique hero with a unique skill set that he has. So yeah, I think that rewiring of my brain will definitely take some time, but yeah, at least I recognize that I needed the help with it, as opposed to just trying to do the same shit every time and then not having a fun time.
Yep. So from there, I'll just pull up the first game here. So this is one that has you in it.
Does.
Looks like an internal game. Recognize some names on the other team there. So
Yeah.
right off the bat, just the pathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
POW, right? Honestly, I think that POW's like a pretty decent path. There's a lot of reviews back in the day where POW and Brew would
Yep.
be like, I have no idea what I'm doing in this character. I think that was very helpful for them. Hopefully my pen opens up. Where is it?
Yeah, after that and all the practice, the power's on ball afterwards too. He's definitely improved on it a lot over the course of like the last like year and a half.
Mm-hmm. So my first thing off the bat is just going to be pathing. You don't really want to take this straightforward path if you ever can as ball. You want to be I like to consider it in your team. Looks like you won't have the same groupings, but they have tracer ball, which is really nice. So both of them can just go wide off spawn, right? They can send like their whatever you want to call it. Their normal group they'll send here, or they'll send them up here, and then they'll send their off angle out here. And that's really good in ball comps because ball comps really want to pinch, right? You really want to put the other team here, keep pressuring them from both sides. If too much pressure goes on the ball team, they back up. If too much pressure goes on the other team, ball and tracer just go deeper, go nuts, go crazy, kill everything. It's like the really nice thing about the comp. For you guys, might be Sombra walking up with you. That's about it. Otherwise, you're just gonna be using the far off angle from the sky, which is really nice. Should be like almost perma uptime to high uptime. But I'd just say you're pathing off the bat. If you're not playing Tracer and you know the other team's gonna play Tracer ball, it might be nice to path away. I don't know if that was like intentional or this is just what you were gonna do no matter what. If it was intentional, it's okay. If not, I would say always try to path on the off angle because right, you're not really right. All you're doing here is, especially if you even get all the way to here, if you eat a bunch of damage, your team's not gonna benefit off of it, and you're not really set up for free, right? Whereas what POW's doing's a little more aggressive, but I like the pathing of if you go all the way out here and you sit under them, right? Especially if you know they're going top, right? As they start to go up top, you can boop someone out. You can roll up off this thing, do a little pile drive. If they go this way, you still have a plan that you can roll behind them, push them further into your team if your team's walking this way. Not sure where. Let's see. Your team is pathing half up, half just straight. Okay. But yeah, I think that's like one thing off the bat to think about is just always your pathing out of spawn should be very deliberate. You're still getting around behind them, so here you're not getting punished for it, but I'd say, okay, we got a nice anti. Okay. Nice. So yeah, you guys did a decent play with it, and anti plus using the abilities very well. Looks like you guys will probably just win this fight off the bat here.
Yeah. But I definitely understand what you mentioned in terms of the pathing there, because the pathing I used was the very obvious pathing. If I get scouted by anyone, especially the Brig, and Brig just uses either cooldown, then I just kind of get destroyed automatically there, and I eat a bunch of damage and get CC'd and get forced out before my team's even ready to do anything. So.
Interesting. Yeah. No, but a lot of ball is like finding avenues and just getting the best avenues. Like, honestly, I think getting caught up on Tracer is pretty useless. I think Tracer generally wins the Tracer versus ball 1v1 unless they troll. This is a little interesting, at least to me. This is again one of those things where like pathing through them made it very obvious what was going to happen, right? Like, as soon as they put Discord, Zen always knows exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So when Fargon was up here fighting POW, I probably would have taken the opportunity to roll under again and just set up for almost the same rotate that you would have done on the first rollout, right? Because again, no one's scouting you there because you haven't done it yet, right? As you do it, people will start to hold these other angles, but will make other parts of our team weaker, right? Like, let's say on the rollout you did that underneath, and then they're like, oh, well, next time we can't let Chris go that way. So then maybe next time you roll up to here, they find you out, you back up, you get healed, and then you go all the way around. Like, right, you just keep basically thinning out their comp by either they hold these scouting angles But if they hold these scouting angles, they only benefit if you show up there. But then that makes the middle of their team weaker, right? Like there's pros and cons. Or if they leave you unscouted, you're basically just free to do whatever you want, right? Which is also fine and a benefit. But I think this one you don't get punished that badly. Seems like people missed a lot of things on you, so you bait a bunch of cooldowns, which is fine. But right, you really didn't get too much value with that slam, which is a little unfortunate. So now it looks like we path around like again, or we're looking for. We're just waiting, right? We lost our Pharah.
Then we
Right?
eat a bunch of damage.
This is a blatant one of what path in front of where they are, right? Like
Yeah.
you're just kind of looking for something to do. The something to do was going all the way under and around, or going down this lane and all the way, right? Like it seems like you'd be out of the fight for a while, but you're not, right? If things do get crazy, let's say they decide to hard push, knowing that you're doing that, you can just use your grapple, and it'll most likely come up before the fight starts, anyways. So keeping that in mind, I think this is like a blatant one where you see exactly like you standing in front of the enemy for long periods of time, gets punished.
Yeah.
But almost every scenario so far, there's been like micro versions of happening outside of the rollout where I think it was just the other team playing it not poorly there.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're here again. Our team's dying, so probably just waiting for everyone to reset. Completely fine. Yep, so again, we're kind of grouped up with our team. Don't really know what.
Wow, that same obvious pathing again. There's a Cassidy.
Yeah, the same mistake being kind of the highlight. So, yeah, just right. Like it's a weird feeling to break, because on every other tank you're gonna want to path into them most of the time like that. But you have to think of it as Wrecking Ball really isn't in the same necessary stance as that a normal quote unquote main tank. He is a disruptor. He does feel a little more. Oh, just live.
Yeah, living there and just staying high ground would have been smarter. Just go high ground, roll backwards, get mega, and then path towards them.
Yeah, but Cell's alright, right? You got a nice boop. Like, again, like, it seems like you understand how the opportunities work and how you could get people, but getting to the opportunities as healthy as possible, I think, is just as important. You know?
Big minds, definitely not throwing.
That was an interesting one. They already had point. If they didn't own point, maybe I could see the vision.
Yeah.
But they were still gaining percent.
It was very ambitious and very weird. Agreed.
Okay, he's sneaking around.
That engagement was interesting because I guess the same again pathing issue happened, but then the other issue the other mistake I made is that I went in too early. At least I think I did. I don't think the team was actually set up at that point, but I rushed it a little bit. I think Farah had an angle, but I think it was only Farah that could see that part of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, you could have killed some people there. This is a very, very small thing that you'll probably learn as you play it more. Right here, as soon as you hit them, jump out of the form, and you would kill 2 people here if you do. Well, I'm about to say, if you hit them and then you jumped as you went off this is something I taught Rue, because right, a lot of times people will get this low doing something. Like even this is pretty close, right? Like half health is still really nice.
Yeah.
Stopping your roll by just breaking out of ball form, like as soon as you've already done the damage.
Yeah.
And then bouncing yourself off of something and then hitting that pile drive will lead to a lot of kills. I know it's not really the focus on this specific scenario, but just making sure that you remember that. A lot of people forget that you can break out of ball. Like people, obviously they know you can break out of ball form, but as they're doing a play with their abilities, they almost never think of it in between. They don't think of it as a fluid motion, which it definitely is.
Yeah.
Because you would have instantly killed Brig and McCree or Cassidy by yourself with just no help, which would be very, very nice, rather than Cassidy getting healthy now and bad things happening.
Yeah, there's no reason for me to convince myself that I had to stay in ball form the entire time and never leave it, especially if I managed to roll through 3 or 4 people at the same time there. So yeah, either leaving ball form to shoot or just going for the slam after, like you said, after I launched myself and then shooting. But yeah, I think experimenting with that a little bit more is going to be really helpful.
So here, this time, this pathing's okay because you're already established so early here. You guys Nano Faro? Are you looking for Nano Barrage? Maybe. You disrupt them a little bit. You gotta get out of there. Oh, God. Alright, you do get out of there.
I could have shot the Zenyatta. That would have been cool.
You're looking a little lost here. So
Yeah.
I think is okay. Getting stuck on the doorway, always very bad. It just happens.
Yeah.
And then you walk into Chaser, also a little scary, but it's okay because this Fargon's there, so this looks okay. This I'm a little confused. I don't know if you thought someone was up there.
Yeah. I think I assumed someone was up there. I don't know why. But
Yeah,
it
and
ended
then
up
this
being a
makes
waste of
sense.
time when I could have just gotten a health pack instead or done something else.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things with ball is trying to pretty much always have uptime or doing something of value, right? Like, if there was a person up there, I would agree that would be a good play. If there wasn't, don't know if maybe someone just lied in comms. But the thing to think about is always doing something of value, whether it be taking someone's attention, doing damage, grabbing a health pack to do all these things that I'm saying over and over and over. Like, the minute you're able to constantly either be doing damage or taking people's attention or it will always bring like infinite value. And so far, you've done it. You're doing those things. In my opinion, you're taking way too much damage when it comes to doing those things because you're rolling in front of like 4 to 5 people. It's very very scary. You've gotten punished like 2 or 3 of the like 5 to 6 times I've seen it. So
Yeah.
so at least hopefully it's very evident to you in that sense. Or in first person.
It's definitely evident so far, and also the 6 deaths on the statistics make it evident too.
Yeah. So you have another.
I'm leading the entire lobby in deaths.
Hey, gotta be a leader somewhere, you know.
That's true.
Yep. So this one's pretty good. You do get the roll behind them. This kind of sucks that you're pulling attention. So right when this happens, I think it's perfectly okay that this is happening. Your biggest goal has to be just getting out or keeping them busy, right? It feels bad because you're eating damage and you're feeding all charge and blah blah blah. But really, just think of us right. Like 3 people are hitting you, which means the 5 people on your team should be doing something else valuable enough to let that happen, right? You get healed up pretty much, right? Because they were now slower to roll out because of that. Right? It's almost like an unseen benefit, so to speak, in a team environment.
Yeah. I was delaying how quickly they could make it to the actual like location of
A
the fight.
location, yeah, the point.
Yeah. And I
Yeah, so
lived that time, so that was cool. Even though I,
Mhm.
I possibly could have died because I stayed in a little bit too long.
Yeah, this is okay. I generally, my biggest like lazy rule, I think, for when people are first trying to get way better at ball, like till they get to maybe a masters or GM level on it, is always try to take the side lanes. Like right, your rollout, you did that. You literally then did all the way around. You hit all the side lanes, right, to basically go all the way around the map to come back.
Yeah.
Coming out here is okay, but the thing to think about is even though you're getting a better angle to shoot, your next play is going to have to be using your ability in front of everyone. Which, as you go for, it looks okay now. It's not going to look okay in a couple seconds.
Probably not.
It does not. It
The
no longer
CC
looks
is
okay.
incoming.
It no longer looks okay.
Already ate 2 CCs so
It
far.
no
Now
longer.
3.
It no longer looks okay. And that's at least my biggest thing to think about is like technically, even if you rolled out at least to here, you'd be able to shoot and decide if you wanted to either commit to shooting and then rolling through all of them. Again, you'd still be rolling through them on the front, but they'd be looking your way rather than a lot of people, honestly, when they walk out of here, are just gonna look main, probably for whatever your team has there, or just let them out further before you have
And the,
fully commit.
the question that I have too, and because you mentioned the idea of like peeking the corner, like inside the windmill, and just like shooting at them from the side, I assume on ball there are probably moments where it's acceptable to just not use a cooldown and to just play like an angle like for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and to kind of pull attention away while also not leaving myself in the middle of 6 people and dying. I assume on ball there are probably certain moments where it's okay to say I don't need to slam or roll for a little bit. I can just be a distraction by being a damage threat.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely times where like this is like I think that's something that you could do here is like even sitting down here, honestly, even using your grapple and just waiting up here. It all matters on where your team likes the fight, but like the thing to think about is like right, you rolled into them here, but really, if some people were back here, so they weren't even visible by your team, a ball Pow when he rolled you up was right behind this thing, so it's awkward for your team to peek. You can honestly let people in a lot more. Like I think one of the easiest places to think about on Ilios specifically here is like you just shoot them from up here. At some point, as long as once you guys own point, which if they don't walk up out of this area, you will own point. What if you start to own point and they start to walk up? Let them pass these lines before you commit to anything. Think of it as like you can just shoot them, close the angle as they start to shoot back. Just keep kind of pestering them, and then once they go past these lines, they go forward out of these lines. You roll into them, you slam them, you slam, and then you roll whatever combo looks best at the time. Think of it as like because right when you go on them here, your team wasn't really able to capitalize. Technically, maybe your Fair was able to shoot in a little bit. Maybe Devo was doing a little bit, but Torb was all the way out here, right? We can't even see him on camera.
Yeah.
Anna was all the way out here, I think, as well, or like somewhere over here. Like they weren't really able to benefit off of this, right? Like I like to think of it as kill boxes, where your kill box really starts here for your team, right? Based off of just where everyone's positioned.
Yeah.
Technically, those little pockets are places you can chase people out of the kill box if someone gets them low. But this is where starting kills is probably the best spot for you guys there. So, yeah, right, because you, as you see, you eat, especially with their comp, right, they're definitely looking to catch you when you come in with their character. So, the less and less you let them do that, the more and more frustrating it'll be for them because either then they swap off of some of those characters like Brig and Cassidy, and if they swap off those, then you can feel free to maybe be a little bit more deliberate in your roles and just kind of blatantly like roll in front of everyone and kind of have no regard. But right, if they don't swap, then you're just letting their cooldowns be useless by not letting them do any of those set things.
Yeah.
Right, so this is pretty okay. That's a little less okay.
No, yeah, that wasn't fun.
So I think the idea is correct. I think the first half of the execution is correct. Let me see. I think this roll is fine. Even getting stunned here is okay because you're gonna E immediately.
And I think
turn into ball. You just need to get out of the angle immediately and go to here. You like you need to take the shortest angle, which and maybe you get boop. You get boop towards going towards the angle, and you decide to try leaving in front of this guy's face.
Yeah. Because I probably could have gone backwards and just grabbed like either the mini or the mega like far behind at their spawn.
Yeah, far behind them, right? Yeah.
That might have been easier pathing. I think it was just a panic moment.
Yeah. I think just thinking of your outs, like when you roll in, you want to have a couple different outs based off where people are.
Yeah.
Which you'll figure out in the middle of the fight. At some point, it'll become kind of like autopilotable, but
yeah,
currently probably not. Let's see. So you roll in. You're behind everyone, so honestly, this is okay. You're looking for things. Impressive shots.
Landing every shot.
hearing ball shots in like slow-mo always confused me. I was like, oh, are you missing every shot? I was like, no, it's on half speed. It's just half the shots I'm expecting.
Makes sense.
So you see everything here. Honestly, that could have been a nice slam. Not really a big deal though, because there's so many people looking at you. Yeah, I mean, this fight's just a wash, so it's not a big deal. And there's a little more you can do, but when Brig rallies and all that, it's not. Brig rally is probably the most annoying thing for Wrecking Ball because of your gun. You're just feeling that damage reduction is so.
It just feels like it does nothing at all.
No, so this is okay, right? We get behind them, right? This was pretty good. We went on a side lane, right? We went down the left lane. Oh, God.
Hey, it's Tracer.
Yeah, we went down the left lane, we went behind them, and then we pushed them into our team and forced a fight, right? Even though we die to Tracer, right? That you guys got 2 kills just for you dying, and then when they commit after that, you get another 2 kills. So I'd say it was pretty worth, right? Like, if you want to think of it as like a really basic plan, like if they ever always being able to go down a side lane and go behind them, push people in is gonna be like the easiest way to always get some value or pretty good value. Okay. Okay.
No.
Okay. So in this
Into the
fight,
hole.
I would take some more time personally. You don't have to just throw your body into POW. You're not in a rush here. You guys are already up one. Take your time and take the best pathing. In my opinion, honestly, the more patient the ball player, the better. Especially in this comp. Your Pharah's really not a liability because she has a mercy, so as long as she doesn't overpeak, she should live. Fargon shouldn't really eat too much shit. I think Torbjorn's pretty tanky. Anna should just not be peeking anything that should be able to hit her for a lot based off just the range gap on the two comps here. Take your time with the engages, go around, just sit, like literally, like right again. Think of those kill boxes until something walks up that can be killed. Right again, you might be like, oh, Ball and Tracer are here. Yes, they're annoying, but are you really gonna boot Ball and Tracer into a spot to where they can't do anything about it? Most likely not. Like
Yeah.
they will just react with their own high mobility cooldowns. So taking your time, rolling around or like rolling even up to height. Like I think you haven't even used some of the better rollouts where if you get behind them and you just sit in these little pockets somewhere, you can just hit really big plays as the fight starts again.
Yeah.
I think the only one you've done here is this one. This is the only route you've taken out of the like.
Yeah. And the ones you
More.
circled were the high grounds on the left and the right side?
Yeah, I think if you stand here, if you're able to
Yeah.
hide yourself anywhere here, because
Okay.
as they roll in, you can swing around. You can even there's like I think a way to somehow do a weird jump where you gain momentum this way, you jump and you can land on the blue fence and then pile drive. That one's kind of quirky because no one I don't even know how people do it consistently. It's just something I see.
Yeah.
But any way that you can just almost perch yourself above that. Even like here would be fine if you're just like if you feel like there's not a lot of time for you to go around. Like shoot them, wait for them to walk up more, especially when you have mines. Just pile drive mines them when they walk in. Mines pile drive. I mean.
And then the nice thing about starting on the high grounds is if I'm on a high ground that's like already like directly above where they're taking the fight, then I can just like go for those and engage with like pile drive by itself, and then I'll have the grapple to get out, especially if I get CC'd by one or two things on my way in. So I guess high ground gives me the additional option of being able to engage with just the slam and then just leave immediately if I need to.
And right, going for the play right in front of everyone gets you a little punished.
Yeah.
A tiny bit.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. Right, if you roll in behind them, I don't think they're hitting that same boot. Maybe if you go too far out on that right side of the map, but something to think about for sure here. Yep. So here you scout that, you see that this is the path they're taking. So working your way around that, either closing the angle like this, going all the way around, or just sitting is fine like this.
I forgot what even happened or what I did here. Wow, I'm probably gonna get CC'd and die.
He's
Yeah, so
free.
I think in that situation, and their team was probably just as confused because Aviva Bomb was flying towards them, but I think I was trying to set up to make a play with the bomb, like CC them so that they could get like knocked in or stunned closer to it, but I messed up the timing with Fargon for that one. But I think it would have been ideal if I was already set up behind before I even called for the play, if possible, and then just looked to roll through from behind and not been scouted up front, because I could have possibly died if they didn't already have to use some of their cooldowns for the bomb or escaping the bomb.
Yeah, I mean that's one where because there's a play happening in the moment, I think it's okay to roll in front of everyone because either they focus on you or the bomb. They can't do things about both at the same time, really.
Yeah.
It looked a little sloppy, but I mean that happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And that guy lived. Cassidy lived. Game is hard.
Yeah.
Hands.
Cassidy had orb above his head. Unlucky. Oh my god, that's so close.
It's unforced.
If I just didn't miss half my shots, he would have been dead.
Yeah, I mean that's something that comes with time playing ball. Is a lot of people don't realize how much damage they're missing on those missed shots. It's a very frustrating thing. Then once
Yeah.
you get good at it, because then you're like literally I hit almost every shot, and then one more shot would have made the difference, and those ones will become frustrating. But it's better to work on the bigger things there first. So it's like, you could aim better in those situations, and just being put in those situations more will lead to that. Hopefully,
Yeah.
why rolling right down Main Street,
Again,
dying.
yeah, and taking
So
way too much
taking
damage.
everyone's focus and damage, not when everyone else is on your team's even able to emphasize. Big one, right? Like I think
Yeah.
it's okay sometimes to path middle, but it's only if your team then is in all the side lanes and unfortunate we got pooped in the hole.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, I would say like the only times I think rolling down main is really good is if all of your team is extremely mobile and they're all in those side lanes. Like if you're kind of supposed to be the guy in the middle, which generally you won't be. There's like some comps, some people like your ball down main. If maybe you have like a tracer and like you have people just who want to do different things on different sides of maps all by themselves all the time can work. But your comp, yeah, trying to take those side lanes, trying to come behind them, trying to kind of make kill boxes, I think, are the biggest things there for ball here.
Cool.
So
One
you're smite.
random
Yeah.
question related to not related to me individually, but like a team wide thing. Um, I know Overwatch 2 is coming out pretty soon, obviously, so that means a lot of team comps that exist today are going to be uh, either tremendously different or they'll be the same but with the off tank removed. But I assume there will be a lot of new ideas and comps that'll be like very popular at the start of the game's release, or even things that are already popular in OWL now. But in terms of us, since we only have a month left, since Ball comp is like the comp that we've played the least of any of the common comps in the game currently. Um, if I did want to like practice ball more, which I am gonna do, when I do practice ball in future scrims, um, what's an ideal comp that you feel that we should um, use as like a standard comp to practice if we want ball to be the main tank? I know that there are a couple different variations, like you have your Ball Diva, your Ball Sig, and then Brig Zen backline is pretty common, but people also run other things like Ana Mercy, not Ana Mercy, well, Ana Mercy at times, Zen Mercy, I think are like those are like the common variations. But yeah, anyways, the general question is, what would you suggest in terms of just like a beginner comp for running ball, something that would be straightforward enough, something that would give us like an adequate amount of win conditions without needing to be too difficult to play in terms of like team coordination, so that we can actually practice some of the softer skills in those comps.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different comps. I think anything where you have at least one high mobility part of the team is probably the biggest takeaway. I would say Tracer is probably the best one for now that a lot of people still like. I know in Overwatch 2 she's seen some effectiveness kind of wane there. So I think one of your DPS being highly mobile, being a Tracer, being could be a Genji, could be even like Soldier, Sojourn, all those picks I think are decent. And then the second one either being another mobile one but with more verticality, could be an Echo, could be a Pharah, could be Widow, Hanzo. Um, Also, some teams mattering on if the other team's running a dive tank, right? So in Overwatch, this could be your Doomfist, your Ball, your Wits, and your Diva if they're playing a dive tank. Some teams will instead want to run like one stabilizing character. That could be Cassidy, that could be Torb, something that kind of holds it down, right?
Yeah.
In most cases, if they aren't running one of those dive tanks, you most likely don't want a character that holds it down because there's nothing to hold down for.
Yeah.
um, and then your backline, I think Zen and Brig are the most popular and the most common, just because comp shouldn't really need a lot of healing and instead just needs a lot of damage brought into it, which they bring. Brig brings enough defensibility to Zen, and then Zen brings the highest damage of the supports and the highest damage boost, and the easiest way to kind of apply that to the team there. I think those would kind of be my picks around ball if you were to pick a ball comp in Overwatch 2. Um, so like a Boba character plus a sniper slash flyer, and then Zen Tracer, or Zen Break, and then if they're running a dive tank and your comp is falling apart because their dive is better, you could bring in something like a Cassidy or something that just makes you feel stronger in a core, Torb, things like that.
Okay. So then, like in like a situation where their dive is like better than ours, or it is too much for us to handle, and running something like Trace or Torb would be like okay
Mm-hmm.
as an
Yeah.
option. Like, so I guess
Yeah.
either like cast Tracer, Torb Tracer,
Mm-hmm.
something similar to that, so that we still have that mobile component to it, a thing that can play with the ball and look for opportunities for disruption or picks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can keep that in mind. And then for off tank, or rather, I guess for now until Overwatch 2 comes out, if we're running the comp and we have an off tank, in terms of the difference between how D.Va and Sigma play into the comp, what are the basic reasons for picking either one of those?
Picking which characters?
Oh, sorry. Sigma or D.Va as the off tank if we're talking about Overwatch 1.
Yeah, I think the things to think about there. I think D.Va, if your team needs more kind of push to go in, D.Va more plays around the ball tracer unit. So the teams that are more, that's their more focus of the comp. Some teams want a stronger kind of core, so they'll pick things like Sig Torb, Sig Cassidy, Sigma just in general to bring more damage to the core, because Sigma has an easier time doing higher amounts of damage than D.Va. D.Va Roy needs kind of timing. So Roy only will go in when Ball Tracer go in to make her damage.
Yeah.
So I think Sigma's the easier pick for a lot of teams. I think D.Va can also bring just as much value, but you have to be extremely coordinated to pull her off, and you have to find her opportunities, which she has very short windows of opportunity where she needs to do very like a lot, whereas Sigma is pretty flatline. You're just always doing something, whether it be putting up your shield, throwing rocks, doing damage.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then if we're looking at like an example, like on the first two rounds of this map when we ran like Far Mercy, I assume the benefit of running like Far Mercy in this kind of comp is that like they're pretty self-sufficient if they're playing their angles correctly and they're playing like far back enough to not just get shot constantly, and the damage output is high when the team and like me and the other tank can force the opposing team into the kill boxes that you were describing. I assume Pharah works well when those things go fine, but I assume like the ceiling of the comp and like the amount of win conditions that you have, I assume that becomes limited then if you play Far Mercy and they both exist to just enable each other.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
opposed to doing other things.
Yeah, I think the biggest things to think about there when you're playing Pharmacy is that with Pharmacy, if you think about it, the big thing to think about is yes, it is a self sufficient group, but think about how the rockets are going to work. So if the other comp is a slower comp, something like a Reinhardt comp, even some of those a poke comp, just things like that are going to sit together clumped and take a while to do rotates. I think Pharah becomes way more valuable in those scenarios. But then in situations where the other comp's pretty fast, let's say that they dropped this and this, and they're also playing like D.Va and let's say Echo, like it would be extremely hard for Far to get value.
Right.
Far is basically shooting at these two people if they're even hittable, based on
right,
because Echo's gonna try to push you out with Orb all the time.
Exactly.
So I think Far gets most of her value. She can get good value, but it really matters on the comp and obviously the skill level. But I think the biggest thing is like the comp. If the other comp is slow, she'll get a lot more value. If not, it's a lot harder. So keeping that in mind.
Okay. Yeah, that answers the question then. Yeah, and I was curious about the team comp, or I asked the team comp question, more for like IGL reasons, since when I do like want our team to like play ball on a certain map, it'd be ideal to just kind of understand um, how I want to form the team comp. And I guess certain switches to make in specific situations, like if they run brawl against us, like you said, and we lose a fight or two, and we see that we can maybe just switch to Far Mercy and resolve some of those issues, and just chunk their stack with a bunch of damage, and just get some kills off of that. Then Far Mercy might be like an okay like swap option in like rare situations, but it's
Hmm.
nice knowing ideally like what we should be playing. I guess most of the time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think Echo's like a better rollout character just due to her versatility. But then if they're slower comp, or if your teammates just like Pharah more, like Pharah kind of goes up in terms of value there. So
Yeah, makes sense.
and here we're going on side lane. This is nice. Tracer pushes us out of the left, which is fine. Now we're on the right. They have a Widow. Unlucky. Their Widow's popping off.
Unlucky. My teammates are all dying.
Pal wants the 1v1.
He
Give it
does.
to him.
I should have. I denied him.
You're letting them bully you around. And yeah, I mean, I think it was a good idea. Unfortunately, just too many people died to Widow too early for you to get. Ooh. Any of your value? That one was a little sus.
Yeah,
Again, you have to think
I
about
didn't have to
where your
go main
team's really
there.
holding. Yeah, think about when you have to go main. Like, really going behind them. That's like another example of like, even though you did go on the side and still go in, like that was one of those where you definitely want to try to keep going behind them, because either they have to turn all the way around and then your team should do a lot in the front. I think this is looking way better as they're splitting up here. Looks like maybe you'll be able to get a play on Widow. Maybe. Kind of. Ooh. Yep. So right again, you're just pulling a lot of aggro. It's very scary how much health goes away. Right. That's the one hard part about ball is you kind of HP trade for every little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your biggest thing's right. Still wanting to go. Anytime you can full wrap them, it'll be a lot less obvious. There is kind of unfortunate. Widow used ult, so she saw you cross, and then everyone just kind of always knew what you were gonna be doing. Unfortunately, but just keeping it different. Yep, like doing things like this. Yep, right. Even though they've done damage, they know where you are. Don't feel like you have to execute. Your
Yeah.
team is still barely. Your team is really fighting over. Let me see if I can put the camera in a nice spot. Your team is really still trying to gain control of this, and then maybe a little bit of that. And then you're out here trying to make a play somewhere in this area. So just
Yeah.
bringing the over, trying to find the overlap of these areas is going to be way more beneficial there. Because right, the fact that you're half health and no one on their team really had like your team has barely started to walk in with you, and now you've got Nano Tracer, hopefully, which should help. Um, but yeah, also think of as some. Oh,
There are mines there.
yeah.
Who
Also
put
think of
those
as you
mines there?
can peel if you want to as well. Think of as like right, Pow's been catching you a lot. You can also try to catch Pow in your back line if you'd like as well here and there. It's not always you don't always have to try to.
Yeah, I don't always have to be on an assassination mission or a mission to disrupt like three
Mm-hmm.
people at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So here you go for cheeky little mines play again, kind of rolling in front of them. I know there's not a lot of time left, so you're probably just like, I need to touch point. Fair enough. But keeping that in mind. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing's wrapping them, coming up behind, finding the high grounds off angles, things to be annoying. I think are the biggest like kind of little takeaways there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. By the time I got to the the third round ruins, I think my brain was already beyond lost and confused. And at least I was using that side lane at times, which was nice. But I think like the timing of the engagements and trying to like make those engagements um, in ways that my team could actually follow up on. Like there are a lot of those issues that were still reoccurring, just like in the other two rounds.
Hmm.
But at least now in my head, I have like a better idea of a lot of those like basic concepts. Um, I think the one thing that I can say is still a little bit confusing, and this will probably take some practice to get used to, but the one thing that's a little bit confusing is so when I do like roll out correctly and play a side lane and get behind, sometimes it's difficult for me to know like instinctively what I want to do at that point. So like for example, like when I got behind them, behind the Widow and the Brig and the Zen, it was a bit hard to know, do I want to pressure the Widow right now? Do I want to look for a more aggressive play on the Brig Zen? Do I want to just shoot anything and then just be annoying and get healed up and then go in later when my team is like a bit closer or ready? I think there are moments where I kind of sit and think too much as opposed to just kind of like doing something that does get value, and by value I mean does something useful and doesn't get me killed. I think there are moments where like even when I do path correctly at times, I just don't know the best like action to make once I'm there.
Yeah, so when it comes to that, I think the biggest thing to think about there is going to be just trying things. I mean, it's something that I think comes with time, but I think that's the short answer. But the long answer would be on top of it, just taking time. It's something that as you start to feel it out, even in a match, it could differ match to match in that, right? Let's say a couple games, Zen Break, the duo's really good and they really are hard focused on each other. That means most likely they'll neglect that their DPS character, right? Vice versa, it's, right? Like you're gonna see every team has different kind of units that play together, different kind of preferences, all those sort of things there. So you'll feel that out as you play a team in the middle of a match, and you'll also feel that out, and as you play just Overwatch in general, you'll see what's going on when you play more and more ball.
Yeah.
But just having all those ideas in your pocket and then being like, oh, yeah, this one didn't work out. Do I want to try another one? Or I think I just mechanically did not perform well enough for this one and be really given a fair shot. So, because I don't think there's really one answer. There's a lot of ways. Every fight's gonna be different.
Yeah, and I guess there probably isn't like, or right, yeah, I guess with a lot of things in Overwatch, or games like Overwatch, there isn't like a single like correct perfect decision. There are usually several decisions that you can make, and they all have certain amounts of pros and cons. So in any given moment, there could probably be two or three like good decisions that I could make, if I choose to make those decisions, and then there are going to be a couple less good decisions that have way more cons than pros. But yeah, that'll getting better in terms of that will just involve more trying things out, learning, and realizing, like you said, when the play failed because of mechanics or when it played because it was just the wrong play or done at the wrong time. So yeah, it'll definitely take more work to figure that out, but yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Do you want me to open up the Northwood script now?
Sure. And if you want me to hear comms at the same time, you can stream the application, but I've watched it once or twice, I think, so I don't think I need the comms.
Yeah, no, I mean I'll swap it to that if I feel it's necessary.
Yeah.
But as you said, you probably heard it once or twice. Comms probably aren't the biggest emphasis.
Yeah.
So, yep. As you see with these rollouts, right? The first thing off the bat is that you're seeing kind of what I've talked about, right? You in your game, you went like this.
Yeah.
Both of them definitely do not do that.
Yeah.
Even some teams do like to. Some teams will roll their ball out solo all the way out wide. I'm pretty sure even in this game, there's that scenario where Yeah. Or some teams, a lot of teams at higher levels of play, teams know teams will roll people out, so it becomes a mind game of then not rolling out like that, rolling out with your team just in case something awful was to happen. You could be there immediately, or like it kind of gives you protection. So it's kind of like the meta's kind of changed in that sense. Back in the day, everyone used to just send ball tracer by themselves and just duke it out. As things went on, people were like, I don't want a 50-50 the game on if my ball tracer is better than their ball tracer always in that specific 2v2. And they start to roll their teams out just together, and then they split up and do it after kind of being like walked alongside of.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing here on the rollout. Right, both teams here kind of playing things I've talked about here. I think Sombra's pretty good, so that's right. Sombra's gonna be able to basically make Zen not a real character. Sombra's really just kind of a almost like a second tracer in terms of DPS if you're really able to utilize her correctly, which is really empowering. And obviously, she still has her Overwatch 1 hack, at least in this scrim. So it's gonna be very very strong. So a lot of people do like this. If you think you're playing against a ball mirror, playing this ball comp could be really nice. So biggest things here, right? Basically, there's almost two different fights going on, right? You're gonna have your cores, right? Your cores are generally gonna be either point side. At this point, sucks for putting your core on point because it's very quick and easy to get at them in too short of angles, so you're not gonna be able to do enough damage. So cores are gonna end up opposite side of the map, and then it's gonna be up to the mobile parts of the team to duke it out to get those kills here. So right, this is kind of similar to what I've talked about, where it was like Ball Tracer are gonna duke it out over here, but because both teams are playing Sombra, Sombra's kind of gonna get in that same mix. It's gonna be more like a 3v3 on one side and a 3v3 on the other, but also both cores might just start shooting into the mobile groups and ignore each other. It's really really interesting. Well, that was unfortunate, but right, and then that's the thing, right? Because there's all this like no man's land, it definitely matters block to block. But the thing about this is basically no man's land, unless you're the really mobile characters, right? So Ball can go for things like a roll through, or can go all the way around and go for a quick roll through as long as he doesn't get hacked. Like there's probably a little more opportunity in these games than in your scenario. So right, blue team loses their tracer unfortunately, so now they're just gonna get slowly whittled down, right, over and over and over here, and wipe, right? Because these comps, this is a comp that specifically is very individual reliant. Not that right, every comp is technically individual reliant, but if you think about it, in a Reinhardt comp, if you lose your diva, you could still win a fight. If you are playing a monkey comp and you lose your Genji, you can still win a fight, right? There's always things. This comp is pretty high damage, pretty high mobility. But thing to think about is as soon as you lose one person, that's a lot of damage off the table because you're all looking for the to hit the Zen Discord, to hit the same kind of damage buff there. In that regard there. Being that in mind there. So right now blue team got to take space. Right, and when it comes to taking space, it's really interesting because it's a lot of back and forth. It's going to be a lot of very quick 1v1s, 1v2, 2v1s, 2v2s, and then people backing off of each other very quickly, whether it be Sombra going back to her translocator, Tracer, Recall Tracer just blinking away, ball rolling away. Like very short little kind of cheeky engages.
And then one question, a ball specific question. If you back up like to right before they're about to take this fight, right before blue team is about to take the fight, my question was ideally what should ball be doing in that situation? You mentioned that like in this early part of the fight there are a lot of little cheeky engages and just it's a bit more of like a poke and like posture part of the team fight. So is it usually like correct at this point for ball to be like not passive, maybe like a little bit more defensive and play more so to like poke the opposing team out and help his team take space first before he goes for like a slightly more aggressive play? Or is that like not an ideal way to do it? And should ball like be playing it more aggressively and wrapping out wider onto an angle like point side, for example, or somewhere else?
Yeah, so I think in these comps, playing slower as ball, I think both comps are kind of built to hold down the ball, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Um, but because of that in this situation, I would say both balls are gonna have to play pretty conservatively. You're not really gonna be allowed to be unleashed, right? Because I think it definitely matters on the scrim block, on the team, and all that. But in this scenario, yes, they're gonna have to play very slow and very kind of collective and smart and conservative with all their movements because all it takes is right. If ball goes out wide, Tracer can catch up with ball almost a whole rotate away. If ball goes out wide, meets Tracer. It's not. It's a very ugly 1v1 if the Tracer is confident, understands her role in the comp,
Yeah.
because she basically just chases you the whole time, and it is the most frustrating thing you will ever deal with.
And then if Tracer marks you early and their Sombra can come over as well and gets a hack on you, then you're
You're just
1000% dead at that point. Especially if your team doesn't know where Sombra is. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my answer would be it depends. In these comps, I think you do. If the other team doesn't have things like Trish, if they're a little bit slower of a comp, I think you just wrap them, tell your team to back up, play it slow, and then when you're in place and ready to go, then you go, you
Okay.
engage, and you kill everything, and it's a good time.
Yeah, but
So right,
it is comp dependent, like you said. That makes sense.
yep. So here, it's really interesting, right? Red team's gonna be able to get a really nice kind of catch on blue, and yep. So right, this is a really interesting scenario where let me jump back to where that was. Blah blah blah. We'll see in a second. Right, red won that first fight there. So the thing to think about here is right, blues kind of all funneled into this lane. This is something I think is kind of poor. Like Ball does want to be grouped, but he kind of wants to be grouped up maybe at least on a little bit of an off angle, whether that be up here with Tracer and then be able to quickly come through. Because as you'll see here, right, it may not seem like much of an off angle. Tracer Ball's gonna be coming from up here. Tracers here. You Zen Brig doing things here. You have Diva obviously here. You're all converging, and the team that owns the most angles in ball comps generally wins, right? Look, Tracer and Ball are coming from up top, which is a different angle.
Yep.
Zen, you're basically pinching a team, and you're really making it difficult for them, right? As you see here, obviously both teams are pretty good, so it takes a while to lead to kills. But as things devolve, right, they're gonna be able to pinch and really finish that fight, get what they want.
Yeah, and it was interesting seeing also the ball like use that top right high ground as his like staging spot before blue team walked in, so that he was able to see a lot of the map and was also able to easily follow up on that engage with him and Tracer on the back line. Because like if a mistake that I would easily make is I would never play up there at the start as ball or in a spot like that. I'd probably just play maybe too far behind their team or just in a spot that can lead to bad things happening to me when there are just better spots to start on.
Mm-hmm. And this fight, both teams are gonna have a crazy ult economy in this next fight, which makes it kind of a weird fight to watch. Both teams are just talking about like they want to hit EMPs, so you're just gonna see both EMPs go off.
Yeah.
And then right, an EMP Tracer is very very free to kill. She needs her mobility. So right, red team's down one. They're kind of trying to do something pretty tough. They might just play it slow and wait for Tracer to come back on the map. Right, ball goes in. This is one of those things you go for an aggressive play. It gets punished like this. It's awful.
Yeah.
No. And that happens very very often. That's honestly one of the hardest things to understand is how to get value as ball without it being frustrating, but also making sure that you don't be doing it, right? It's like a fine line of feeding and getting value.
Yeah.
So, I think that's like the name of the game with ball, which is very hard for people because you're like a lot of teams, if that happens so many times, they swap off ball and then they don't take it as a learning moment. It's very frustrating. So.
Yeah. Sombra EMP is by the spawn door. Wow.
And with disrespect, the disrespect right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so here, right, the fight's starting to devolve out here. The balls, specifically, for both ball players, right, the thing is finding quick in and outs. That's how I like to call it. It's like, the more in and outs that happen, the better, because you don't really want to stay there and hard hold space unless you're, like, hard winning.
Yeah.
But, right, the thing to think about is, as the ball player, even though you are the highest HP, you are still just as vulnerable as everyone else if you get hacked, if you get discorded. Really not that much crazier in terms of tankiness, so just think of yourself as almost like another mobile DPS there. So it's finding angles, right? Like, as you see us keep going around over and over and over. So right, both teams here, right now they're picking some of those other picks I talked about. Snipers, flyers, things like that. And then here, blue team also chose to pick Zarya, right? That's interesting in that it's kind of like Sigma in my mind. It's Sigma, but has a little bit more aggressive policies where you can, right? If your ball does get hacked, you can bubble him. There's sort of freer bailouts there that you get.
Yep.
So, right, red team's taking advantage of that, right? Because blue team doesn't have Tracer, the red team honestly has a lot more freedom. So ball should be doing things like this, taking a lot more aggressive angles once they've scouted off Rip and being like, well, they don't have a Tracer, they have Widow Echo. Even though Echo does a lot of damage, you don't really have someone who's going to keep up with ball unless your own ball chases them around.
Yep.
So ball should try to take more advantage of opportunities due to less mobility. Oh, pedals popping off. And right, kind of breaks out into a couple different things happening here. Right, he goes for a decent play, gets out. Fortunately, something bad happened to Tracer. Not really sure what. Not really the concern here, but right, I think the ball went for a good play. You should go for the slam. Try to commit, try to blow some people up. It just doesn't work out, unfortunately for them. And then it just becomes both Widows killing as many people as possible.
Basically.
Right, so they're pathing far away from them so that they can maybe take space and get behind them. Oh, which is okay. On red team, right? As red team, you're basically always going to be looking for pretty deep angles. You want to find places where you can get your Tracer and ball to go deep into them at the same time you're getting engaged on, and just hope that because they're less mobile, you're able to get those blow-ups and then either come back to your team or just get them quicker, and then both groups will win. Right? Whereas with blue team, you have more damage, a little bit more consistent damage, all those sort of things. You're lacking a little bit of mobility. So what you're hoping is that this group is just so strong that they don't have to back up ever. Right? And both right, and the other team has also swapped to Tracer since then. So we're pretty much in a mirror aside from Zarya and D.Va, where Zarya gets more value the longer a fight goes on. You just get to sit there with the beam. Anytime the fight's just killing out, she'll be able to use longer range. D.Va really needs those opportunities to make big plays, getting in close, doing a bunch of damage, eating things, which we'll see on the road here.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, so Balsig gets one with Widow. This should be good. Either, right? Because either you get the kill, or at least you keep her busy, right? Anytime that you're able to just keep running around the Widow, it's not shooting your team, which is, is generally a very big positive.
When she's not clicking everyone's heads, it's definitely a positive.
Mm-hmm. Right? And as the other ball, you're just chilling, right? Your whole team said, may as well. Widow gets just a free kill. Well, and this camera angle doesn't really get to let us see what's going on anywhere
Yeah,
else.
we can't see the right
But
side of the map.
right, you can see after blue team gets the pick, ball instantly starts looking for if he can do anything to just brig. Right, if you can get that solo kill in the sport, always big. If one of them is down, try to get the other. So then basically the other team's just left out for try.
Yep.
Fortunately, Diva's there. So then right, immediately identifying that and being like, well, can I fight this? Answer's most likely no. If there's two plus people, just being like, okay, do I want to be annoying, or can I get value somewhere else? Right? Louis decided here that he's not getting that much value there. He's gonna roll out, get some heals, and maybe be able to do something else, make front to back it. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds weird because front to back, you're probably used to being like the very basic. Both teams are Reinhardt. We're all just shooting each other. We all kill Reinhardt and then Diva and then blah blah blah.
Yep.
In this case, it's front to back. They said like if I were to draw lines, like the back of the map for blue team's gonna be this way, and the back of map like it's right. It's thinking of it as like, well, Louis rolls in, he sees that Zen's dead, but the brig is unkillable because Diva's there. Don't want to deal with it. Rolls back out and decides to kill everything up here, which works out pretty well for them. It looks like so far.
Makes sense.
Pretty even.
And that's definitely something that'll be nice once I get to that point where where I can just kind of like have an initial plan of what I want to do. Like what you mentioned, Louis was going to go after the brig, but then he realized Diva was there and it wasn't going to be a kill that he could secure by himself since he's only ball and that's a tank with the brig. So he realized, okay, I can get better value on the right side or the back half of the map. So he just kind of abandoned that initial plan and just went for another plan after he went and got himself healed up. So I think like putting myself in those situations where I kind of have that initial plan of what I want to go for when I'm taking the angle, and then realizing, oh, I just can't do it because of X, Y, Z reason. So I'm gonna switch to maybe my backup plan in this situation and go for that instead, as opposed to like, banging my head against the brig that I can't kill and just essentially losing all my health or dying. Those are the same thing. Losing a lot of health or dying is what I meant, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say those are the best things to look at here. Like kind of what you said, like as you play it more and as you get more comfortable with it, you'll have your defaults. But then you will also then see adjustments as you're playing. You're like, well, normally this would be my rollout, but I noticed that they've been playing a lot of this, or they've been playing like this, blah blah blah. I noticed their diva's been holding back, things like that. Like that can definitely change it up very very quickly.
Makes sense.
So from here, right, again, both teams are kind of forcing things off, right? You see, again, both balls are really pretty much been spending most of their time here. They're always they only come in here very quickly and then they leave if they ever go down mid. Like, keeping that in mind, they're doing kind of these basic fundamentals very, very well, right? Right, even if ball goes from this side over like that, he does it very quickly, right? It's not like he's sitting there thinking about it and then doing like it's like things just happen.
Yeah.
All the time, right? That's just kind of how ball has to be, right? Right. He's through the middle, but he's through the middle to just cross space. Like these are right. Most of the time, the fighting is still happening on those edges. Oh, Zang got looped up. That. So what blue team's been really doing well here in this last fight was like they were just their core was just not dying. Just like honestly, a lot of value. Like right, they all forced on them pretty hard, and they just held out and lived it. It's very nice. Hard to see at all what is going on over here because it's kind of off camera.
Yeah.
I assume. Looks like again, ball's still going down that side lane, which is right. That very basic idea.
Yeah.
Just thinking, almost always going down the side lane, then you won't be seen by most likely 5 to 6 people. You should be in a way better position in terms of HP. You can use that HP advantage to do things you want to do, or the basic things off the top there. Oops, so now the fight's breaking out here. Both mines really just dropped to make the middle of the map way less attractive for both cores.
Yeah.
And still fighting on these sides for the most part. All right, blue team survived all those ults going on in the middle, which is really good for them. All it really takes, right, when you have a strong core, you just have to live everything. And when you're the red team's kind of comp where you're something a little more fast, you really have to find those opportunities and get those kills to have a chance of winning. But good job by blue team.
Yeah, I think when Tin, my friend that plays on the team, when he sent me this bot, I think at the time both UTD and Northwood were like somewhere around like top 8 in collegiate, I believe, maybe top 10. I can't remember. But he told me specifically that during this specific scrim, I think he wasn't playing in this one since he wasn't there that day. But in this specific scrim, most of Northwood's roster was former contenders players.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. We can see almost the entire map this time. It's pretty cool.
Yep. Nice. So red team's on ball, blue team's on monkey. So right, focusing on what red team's doing is gonna be major focus. Right. Again, take a side lane, kind of just seeing what's happening. Well, obviously we don't have his POV, but he was literally just sitting here, and you can see he was looking this way. And as he saw them walk up, he decided either he was gonna go around or There's two ways to play ball when it comes to like playing in a monkey, which is very interesting. There's playing what I call a counter dive and the anti dive. There's a lot of teams use very different terminology. But with the counter dive, that means that you go in at the same time they're going in, and you just think that your team's better at killing people, and you go wait more. Yeah. There's also anti dive, which as ball you can still catch things, right? If their monkey jumps in and you're ready for it, you can boop him away, or at least be there to shoot in a similar direction. It's still just as annoying.
Yep.
So it seems like they're going for more of an anti dive or a mix of those two things, right? Where they're still catching something, so it's kind of a counter, but it's also an anti in that, right? Not everyone's going on their Zen or their break, right? Only Monkey's Aria really got all the way through all this choke. So right, and I mean again, you can't hear the comms, but I can hear UTD's comms. They're like, right, they look for the opportunity on Zen because there weren't that many people. They weren't able to kill Zen and break with just Monkey and then like probably a medium to low charge Zarya.
Yep.
So and then at the end there he says carry me, and then he gets pushed forward and he gets slammed. It's just not a good time. Like there's no real out after you've used your film.
Yeah, and like you said, when you're playing ball, kind of with that anti-dive play style, or at least in certain situations when you're doing it, and you catch the monkey in a spot where you can boop him out on a LOS, or even just boop him and or slam him and put damage into him and Tracer on their dive, then it makes them kind of panic and even abort the dive completely. Or die, if it goes horribly wrong. Yeah. So yeah, ball. It's not interesting to see how ball has that ability. Whereas like Winston, I think is very bad at doing that because he doesn't have the CC that ball has.
Stuck there, you're almost wasting time because you have cleave and all that. Like you're missing out on value.
Exactly.
Interesting. Whereas ball kind of has that. So
you can get the value in like a variety of ways.
So here. I mean, they just let too many people through the cracks here. That would be my problem here, is that when Zarya just finds Zenyatta, never a good time, solo grabs him and is able to kill him, because there aren't that many people, I guess. They were just still getting into position, which happens sometimes. Sometimes there's just gaps in knowledge. It's an unfortunate situation. Oh, red team gets a decent amount of kills. Maybe it's one. So that's the other thing with with ball comps is that you can kind of be down from a lot of members, but still be able to win fights because each character just has so much individual power, right? Tracer has so much individual power. Ball has so much individual power in that either they stall really hard or you can just very quickly kill someone and disappear.
Yep.
The Reaper choice is interesting. Like, I don't know. I understand it because they probably are playing for that catch, but I feel like because of how short his effective range is, really sucks. You know,
Yeah.
they're playing.
Would Cass
Yeah.
be like a more common pick if they were trying to go for that playstyle of catching the
Yeah, I
Winston
would say
dive?
Cass or Torb is generally the more. Cass is probably the most regular pick, and then Torb for some wacky team.
Yeah, I've seen Torb in a couple tournaments. And we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, yeah, they pick Widow mostly because they're just like, we don't really need to catch as many things. Maybe they're hoping they can just kill people in the back for free.
Yeah.
Right. Monkey Comp's doing well, right? Monkey Comp's the comp that wants to hold main right there. It sounds weird to think about, but Monkey Comp is more core based than the Ball Comp, right? The Ball Comp's kind of more focused on that those groupings, 3v3s, split fights.
Yeah.
Where Monkey's Comp, right? Like generally Reinhardt comps and then Arista comps and then Monkey comps in terms of grouping or enjoy being grouped up.
Yeah.
So, right, as you see a split fight, the trades are going really well for the Nano and Monkey comp, right? They're just kind of losing fight after fight here, unfortunately, on the ball because, right, they're not getting enough angles. It's really hard for them to take enough space to be able to get these plays off. So.
And then the grab comes in and they can't touch.
It kills two and they can't touch him.
Nice. Very interesting.
Nice. Is that it for ball? Oh, there's more. Or is that all you want?
I can't remember. I guess we could look at like one more round of ball, and then I think we could probably wrap it up. Then you could skim through the VOD. I forgot what other maps they play in this one because I have 2 or 3 VODs.
Oh, never mind. This one they play. He was ball in spawn.
It was a bait. Yeah, I think they
There's some ball
they play
here.
ball later. Oh, okay.
Maybe they swap to it and then he gets close to all.
Oh, I think they switched to stall picks to try to end the round, but then it doesn't happen. I guess they stay on it after.
Yeah, they're attacking here, so they'll just stick it.
Yeah.
So you know, at least watch this point, kind of. If he, okay, let's see. Both teams are now playing ball. Obviously, they both swapped from Marissa to ball to stall or to get to point faster, right? But the things to think about on this point are, again, just keep in mind going on the side lanes, right? Their ball, red ball, went through here. Blue ball pretty much went here and actually went under and through the little under door there.
Yeah.
Right, staying to those side lanes, really punishing things like that is the focus. Louis kind of fucked up. he kind of said it. He's like, oh, I'm gonna roll into them. As soon as he got stunned, he said, oh shit, I'm dead. Like that's something you'll realize as you go for it. All right, there's very short opportunities ball has to do plays.
Yeah.
And as soon as one thing goes bad, just expect it to be over.
Yeah.
So knowing that taking those more punishing plays, only doing it when it's really necessary, which there kind of was because he thought he had to touch, because as you can see, it's very, very close to cap.
Yep.
Right, red team, ball pretty much was in the side lane until they won the fight hard enough that they knew it was guaranteed to win, so now they're just going to try to blow up everything in mid. Right, you see that? Right, that's like the very simple, lazy, nice play to do. Right, again, the side lanes. That ball went through here, pushed again, and they got free kill. It was like thinking of that as your textbook play, and that will honestly work a lot. Um, and the more and more you do that, then you'll start to think of those more creative plays and be able to execute those. But doing that more, because I don't think I saw too much of that today
Yeah.
on your rod. So just looking for that as like your base play or your lazy play. Like anytime you're able to slam people down mid or kind of get people push people further into you, push people out of kind of their off angles, their little corners, will be great.
And that would be like one of the defaults that you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, that'd be a good default if you ever see an opportunity. Just being like, well, this is the play now. See.
Small things like that are pretty interesting too. The ball like could have just defaulted to trying to just fight the other ball who was like closer to the cart, but he just abandoned that and then he went on the Widow early so that she didn't get any value at all until the entire team came back to peel for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Just thinking of those opportunities, right? Like, right, the fight there. Honestly, it didn't seem very even, but it was technically 3v3. So pushing that Widow out, right? Widow is a character that one shots, obviously, most of the time, aside from tanks.
Yeah.
But this does so much so quickly that him chasing her away really just means that he hopes that in the 2v2 their team's able to do more consistent damage than the other consistent damage. So Roy taking out the biggest X factor there.
Yeah.
Right, you notice in these ball mirrors a lot, like even with ults that seem like quote unquote big ults, like Sigma ult, mines, things like that, you really should just expect to get 1 to 2 and just be happy. Like even grab, like
Yeah.
that's just how it's gonna be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
Like
think
it's not.
on Ruins when they were running Czar, I think the most that were ever in a grab at the same time were two people. It was like 1 or 2 person grabs, and same with Flux in most situations. At most, you're getting like 2 in them. So
I'm just skimming around. It looks like they're playing Orisa here.
yeah, on Hollywood, I think they do run ball the whole time, at least on one of the rounds.
Yep. So right again, like got pretty similar comps with what I've been talking about, where like you either play double mobility, mobility plus sniper. Tracer's pretty much the default. All these other characters are pretty close to default. Um, right, really just think about taking off angles. If you want your ball to roll out like this, ball rolling out like this, even ball quickly going through and getting behind like that can be a play. Like these are all the
Yeah.
avenues you should be thinking about as attack ball.
Yeah. And then same as earlier, like even on this first point example for Hollywood, you probably never want ball to really be on point until the fight is like 100% won, and you're just cleaning up at that point. But you want him to always be playing like in that left or right side lane, like the one by Cafe that you drew out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, yeah. Oh, this guy isn't moving the camera. All the fighting's going.
I know, we're missing all the action. Yeah, if they were actually scrimming, because it's I think they just got back to school like a week ago or something. So they actually had recent scrims. I was gonna get a replay code, but they hadn't been scrimming much. Just doing like more tournament games for fun and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here, right again, these side lanes. Oh, unfortunately, he gets hacked trying to go for the mine ult or the mine
The
slam.
pile driver, yeah. And they're pretty staggered at this point. And then he dies.
A nano blade. The comms get a little crazy when the nano blade comes out. They really thought they were gonna kill him. It's not. Very sad. Yeah, but again, just like, oh, they're gonna take forever to move the camera again, aren't they? Okay. Sorry, again, like, it's a lot of fighting for one of two things: focusing on side lanes or height, right? Like, the fighting's kind of been happening up here. Like, anytime that you can fight for height or side lanes as well, you're doing your job. And once you own those, then going in either behind or from the side onto the other group is kind of the focus, the thought process there.
Yeah.
In almost every situation. Right. Sometimes when it's like last second or you're up so many people, you'll just say main though. That's something at right time you'll find out the exceptions to those rules and just be able to feel that out. Right, and think about like how Ball does a lot of like, I don't want to say nothing, but finding times where all you're doing is waiting for the right opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Louis not really showing himself, not feeding, not giving away his position when he knows the play's going to be him minding, or he's supposed to follow up with a slam on like an EMP, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like right here when they know they're EMP slamming, not
Yeah.
not exposing yourself, right? Knowing when you need to be annoying or show presence, and knowing when you don't. So.
Yeah. Especially when your team has like a specific like plan before that team fight that and partially involves your cooperation, knowing that your job is to get to the correct spot to set up and then to go in to be follow up or to enable that plan. As opposed to going in early to try to get individual value and then just kind of showing yourself and getting chunked for health and then dying or nearly dying unnecessarily. Yeah, and I think that additional element of playing ball, that element that of syncing up with your team, so that the value that you're getting is something that they can benefit off of. That definitely seems to be a very powerful thing that does involve a good amount of patience and also understanding of pathing and correct places on the map to be in at the right times. So, yeah, definitely obvious how high of a ceiling ball has because of all of those things when those things are being done at least semi consistently, like these players do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Well then, for now, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I guess we can do the usual wrap up where you give your list of action items for things that I can actively practice in scrims, especially, or even in ladder if I just happen to be on ball and I'm messing around with stuff.
Yeah, so I think the basic action items. I think the first one is learning default. So taking side lanes, getting a height, I think are gonna be the two most lazy defaults, and then from there you'll learn on every map what that feels like, what that really looks like. It's a lot more complicated than that, but thinking about that for next time. I think finding out your defaults is a big one, right? Because right now it seems like your default is going on main,
Yeah.
and you're seeing that the pain sometimes. You're being punished like probably 50% of the time for it, which
Yeah.
is still not great. Always will be punished is almost never. Things like that. But that's one thing to think about. Another thing there. aside from defaults, is just getting more comfortable with kind of your pairings. It seems like your comps go have something with a tracer in it. Getting very comfortable in the duo setting, because I know you. It seems like this pick is mainly for team play. Is what the end goal is for it.
Yeah.
Getting very comfortable playing with your tracer. Like a lot of ball tracer comps, the teams that do better are the ones where the ball and tracer know what each other want to do and basically do it as soon as they say it. It's not one of those things where they have to explain the play, think about the play, theorycraft the play. It's not rocket science. It's very simple, but it sounds stupid. But like playing a lot with them and seeing how those executions go, you really want to be like if you're playing in an SR way lower than your own and on a smurfing on an all blah blah blah. Like as you roll in and pile drive, like you guys should be killing something if you think the people you are playing against are way worse than you as ball tracer almost every time, at least a couple of them.
Yeah.
So doing that is a good one. Just messing around, getting more comfortable with his mechanics. It looks like you do pretty basic. I don't want to say basic movement, but like you do a lot of the very basic rolls. Like just think about things like, oh, when it comes to taking height, what's going to hurt me more, right? Based on where enemies are, it could be if I roll like this would be like bad, right? Like if I was to go up top, which I can using slam or just walk like this, right? Like that would be a bad rotate if there were people here. So thinking about things like that and taking more kind of, I know again that kind of sounds like the high ground one, but it's like just thinking about kind of and abusing the movement a little bit more, like doing cheeky little things like we talked about, where like stopping your movement, I think is one that a lot of people never do on ball. That is like so benefit. Like there are a lot of times I've seen even top 500 ball players like fall off the map, just do stupid things, and like I'm like, you did not even need to die there, and they're like, really? Like they always just forget like you can really just do that and then break your momentum and then you're good, right? Like it's almost as it's there's no punishment for you. You're not punished. So doing things like that, doing quirky movement, like I'm sure you've probably seen the ones where people do the things where they like go up and are
they
able
bounce
to
off
like,
something, and then they can get a slam off of it. Yeah.
Yeah, just things like that. Just keep thinking about that. I think would be maybe a good 3 to 4 points there. But hopefully that's all.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds perfect to me. And I think the tip that you gave, repeated again about stopping your momentum by coming out of the ball form. I know I've seen a lot of players, even pretty like high SR ones. Even I think back in the day, I probably even saw Yeetle do it in the past, where they end up needing to save themselves when they roll off of a ledge by slamming, when they could have just stopped their momentum by like just hitting shift. And coming out of ball form. So yeah, I could definitely see how that's a pretty common one that people just don't utilize as best as they can.
Yeah, a lot of people don't use as much as they could, but also keeping in that back pocket, remembering that technically slam is a bailout. If you're too far gone, it can turn you around. Like if you were to basically falling off the map, like there are certain times where it won't save you. Like if I were to fall off like this, I would just stop. Yeah. But what you can do is quickly turn your camera around and still say, like, those are probably some of the saves, too. Like, just remembering that's also another way. So,
especially if you're going for a play where you're trying to like get like 2 or 3 environmental kills, I could see how like you'd want to like make sure that you're getting the full roll through on the targets, so you may just kind of fly off the ledge more than you expect, and then in that case, then the slam would be your like bailout if you were hesitant to like cancel with shift. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Alright, well, I'll have a list of things that I can start working on slowly. But, yeah, as usual, I appreciate the time.
Yep, no problem. If you have any other questions, feel free to DM me. So.
Okay, yeah, if I think of anything that's quick, I can shoot you a DM at some point. You said you'll be on vacation for a little bit,
yeah,
right?
I'll be on vacation for like the next week. What's today? September 1st. Be on vacation until like the 10th or the 11th, but
okay. Cool. Well, yeah, I probably won't have anything that'll come up in that period of time anyways, so when you get back, if I think of anything, I'll shoot you a message, most likely.
But, sounds good.
Yeah, I appreciate the help, and I'm glad that I was able to have a VOD that I could use as an example also. I'm lucky that I knew the player on the team, and he was able to share a couple.
Yeah, no, that was cool to look at, so.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad that we both enjoyed it. Alright, well, I hope you have a good night, Momboom.
You too. See ya.
Take care.